such as this great and magnificent temples. It's not just one here. We got the great temple for Ramesses II. The second temple on your right hand side, this is for his favorite wife, Queen Nefertari. And you have to make a difference between two famous queens, Nefertari and Nefertiti. Nefertari, she's a wife of Ramesses the Great. Nefertiti, she's a wife of Akhenaten, the king who asked her to get monotheism, to have monotheism, to worship only one God. Even any name in ancient Egyptian time has a meaning. What about Nefertari, the wife of Ramesses the Great? Her name consists from a few parts. Nefer, which means a beautiful. Ta means land. We call it Tari. It means two lands. So the beautiful of the two lands, that she was a beautiful of Upper and Lower Egypt. So Ramesses the Great, he's a well-known pharaoh. Why? Because that man, he ascended to the throne once he was 25 years. And he succeeded and managed to rule the country for 67 years. So he died when he was 92. He had a long life, he had a lot of wives, but he had his own favorite wife, Queen Nefertari. He got a lot of children. One of the stories is said that he got more than 100 children. And the whole tourists, once they hear that, they're going to say, wow, he's busy man, or he was busy. But Ramesses the Great, he had his own reasons to build the temple over here. We're still in a famous part of Egypt, we call it Nubia. What is Nubia? Has been started from in front of the old dam. You still remember the old dam once we drove over this dam?
Yeah.
That's the beginning of Nubia. And it goes till Sudan. The ancient Egyptian name was Nub. Nub, which means gold. So it was a place where they used to bring in gold in ancient Egyptian time. As I told you, once we started building Aswan High Dam, they found that the whole monument in Nubia should be submerged with water. So the Egyptian government made a great appeal to rescue all those monuments, and the UNESCO agreed to save it. So as I told you, that both of those temples were relocated. They put it above the top of the mountain. It's not just Abu Simbel temples. We got 17 monuments were relocated from its original places. But right now we got around 11. What about the rest? I said 17. Egypt felt with honor to all those countries who participated and rescued all those monuments. So 4 temples were given as a gift to those countries. One is still in Leiden Museum in Holland, another one in Spain, another one in Italy, another one in New York at the Metropolitan Museum. I told you that each temple has been relocated from its original place. Where was the original place? Can you see that soldier over there?
Okay.
In a black uniform?
Yeah.
Below such as this level, 65 meters was the original place of the temple. So the temple has been lifted up 65 meters, has been taken 180 meters to the west. That's for the great temple of Ramesses II. The second location will be over there, for Queen Nefertari, behind these people. You see it?
Yeah.
Behind the pinches for the sound and light show. But how they might move the temple from its original place, and unfortunately it might be a big mistake by tour guides. They might say this temple was built by Ramesses the Great. And you might have read that before, but I have to tell you this temple wasn't built by Ramesses the Great. You're going to say, how come Mohammed? You're kidding. You're going to ruin our information. No, I'm not speaking about the person who made such as this temple. I'm speaking about the verb for which we use it. This temple is a rock-cut temple. It wasn't built from a few pieces and they put it above each other's. That has been carved into the mountain. So that we shouldn't say this temple was built by Ramesses the Great. It has been carved or engraved through Ramesses the Great. And that's why when they decided to move the temple from its original place, I told you the temple has been located at the bottom of the mountain. They have to lift it up. So they found the only solution that they're gonna sew the temple. They keep sewing the temple into huge blocks. Each block it might weigh from 20 till 40 and 30 tons. So how they succeeded to move the temple from the original place? At the original side, they made something, we call it as a coffer dam, as a barrier in front. Why? Because they said, well, they're going to cut the temple into many pieces, maybe the water will get into the temple. So they like to prevent the water to go into the temple till they save it. Then they cover the whole main facade with a heap of sand till the top. Why they covered with a heap of sand as it has been discovered? Because they said that they have to sew the temple into huge blocks, and they were worried while they keep sewing the temple, a vibration might happen and cracks might happen to the temple. Second, they were worried while they keep sewing the temple, a big block will fall over one of those statues and it can be badly damaged. So they're gonna give it protection. They cut it into huge pieces. They choose the new location. This temple is a famous why? Because yesterday we had a famous celebration. On the 22nd of February and the 22nd of October, we have something here that seems to be like a miracle, that when we get the sunrise, the sun rays, sunbeams go from the outside, go into the temple through many corridors till it reaches the sanctuary. Inside the sanctuary, we can find 4 statues representing Ramesses the Great, God Rahurachti, God Amon-Ra, and God Betah. The sun, the light will illuminate the statue for Ramesses the Great. Then the light goes to the next statue next to the right hand side, then to the statue next to his left hand side, and he neglected the 4th one. This is incredible. It's easy for you if I give you a flashlight, a torch, you can focus it over any figure, over any statue, but to control the sunbeam, sunlight with the sunrise, go through many corridors till it reach the sanctuary, and on a fixed days, this is incredible. And some of the tour guides, they might say that's his birthday and that is his coronation. That's not right, because we haven't got an evidence that those days might be his birthday or his coronation. Whenever we say something, it should be written through the ancient Egyptian inscription, the hieroglyphic. We haven't found something that might tell us that's his birthday or that's his coronation, okay? So let's be honest that those days has been delayed. Before was the 21st of October, the 21st of February, but after they moved the temple, it became the 22nd of October, the 22nd of February, okay? So, if you're going to talk about Ramesses himself, you're going to see in front of any temple, we have to get a huge facade, and it should have a special definition, we call it as a pylon. But here, he made an exception design. He made 4 huge statues representing himself. Why Ramesses the Great? He intended to make only 4 statues. At the original site, he got the whole mountain. He could do more or less. Why? Ramesses the Great, he had 2 famous reasons to build the temple over here. When he would like to make a magnificent temple, it should be at the capital. Why Ramesses, he built it far from Luxor, far from the capital, to be here in Abu Simbel. The first reason was a political reason. What about the political reason? In ancient Egyptian time, we had a lot of enemies. Those enemies reached to be roughly around 9 traditional enemies. One of those famous enemies, they were the Nubians, because they tried to get their own independence in that time. So Ramesses the Great, he built his own temple over here to keep his eyes on watching what is happening in Nubia. If those people, they well organize themselves and they're gonna have their own independence, he's gonna be ready with his troops and he's gonna defeat them. The second reason was a religious reason. Ramesses the Great, he defied himself, he declared to make himself as a god. The king in ancient Egyptian time, he's considered as a god on earth, but he shouldn't be worshipped during his lifetime, maybe once he passed away. So Ramesses the Great, he knew if he declared to make himself as a god in Thebes, the priests of Thebes will not allow to Ramesses the Great to be worshipped next to the chief god, God Amon-Ra. So he built it far away to allow to the people to do worship him, to get his own new religion. What about the 4 statues? As I told you, Ramesses, he intended to make only 4 statues because he defied himself. He declared to make himself as a god. So he wanted to declare to everybody, I'll be a god for the 4 directions, east, west, north, and south. So I'll be the god for the whole universe. And I have to tell you, once you look at the top, you're going to see that we're going to row baboons. Can you see it? Can you see the baboons at the top?
Yeah.
Why? They should be 24 baboons, refer to the 24 hours a day. Why they chose the baboons? Because he's still facing the east side. And they said this is the first animal could feel with the sunrise. Before the sunrise, those baboons will be above the trees without any movement. Once the sun it comes, those baboons keep jumping from a tree to another tree and start to scream and make a big noise like welcoming the new day or welcoming God Ra. You're going to see King Ramesses the Great in a full royal attitude while he's well represented that he's sitting over his throne, the royal chair. Why? You're going to see the king, he might be represented like a step left forward in a Osiris attitude, or we call it in a mummified position, or in a he's sitting over a low throne. Why? As any mother carrying her baby, where she used to put her baby? Her lap. So the shape of the lap is exactly at the low throne. So the king is representing himself as he's sitting over his mother lap to get the protection. And you're going to find him, he's resting both of his hands to tell you he's very merciful for his people. Sometimes you might find a king, he's resting one of his hands and he's clothing the other one. So he's telling you, I'm very merciful for my people, but at the same time, I'm very powerful to smite any enemy. The king is well represented while he's having the double crown and the royal headdress, which we call it the nemes, and he's having a full spear. You might heard about the full spear that the king he had two kind of full spear. You remember? A straight one and a curved one. If it's straight, they're gonna tell you it means he's still alive. If it's curved, it's a sign of death. But if you ask the people why the ancient Egyptian people they might do that, they might reverse it. They might make the straight one to tell you this is for afterlife as a sign of death, and a curved one to tell you he's still alive. The ancient Egyptian people, they never made something without having a reason. If it's straight, the direction of the beard goes to where? To the ground. So it tells you he's still on earth. If it's curved, it says to heaven, to the paradise. That's why they made it as a sign of death. In between his legs, you're going to find a few statues, little statues, female statues representing his wife, his mother, and his daughters. In between the four statues, you're going to find a statue representing a famous god in ancient Egyptian time. His name called God Rahur Akhti. It seems to be like Horus, like the hawk, the falcon god. But once you look at the top of his head, you're going to find the sun disk and the cobra in the main forehead. But Ramesses the Great, he succeeded to open such as this temple in the 25th year of his reign. His wife, Queen Nefertari, she should come and she should open this temple next to her husband. But she couldn't come. Why? Because she was dying. She was ill. One of his daughters and one of his wives at the same time, because he married to some of his daughters, she came and she opened such as this temple next to her father and her husband at the same time. But 5 years later, strong earthquake happened. Cracks happened to the temple. The third statue has been fallen down. The priests succeed to restore the inner part, but they cannot restore the third statue, and they left it as it is. At the same time, they cannot tell Ramesses the Great that one of your statues has been fallen down. Why? Because it might be as a bad wishes to Ramesses the Great that you might die soon. And it's going to ruin his new religion. He claimed, I'm a god. If he was a real god, the nature will not expose something belonging to the god. He should protect his own monument. So the third statue is still as it is since his reign. But as I mentioned before, once you go to the inner part, and as I said, wasn't allowed to the two guys for a long time to get inside a temple, no explanation. So come closer over here. If you're gonna face me, you're gonna see how they succeeded to cut the temple into huge blocks. These were only the heads of those statues. Through the inner part, look, we got many corridors which leads you to the sanctuary, to the inner part. And there you're gonna find that we got 4 statues representing Ramesses the Great, Rahur Akhti, God Bita, and God Amun Ra. Why? because he tried to make a balance in between upper